You never knew. I picked up the box. I brought it inside. And I set it on the kitchen table and stood there with my cold coffee and the particular grief of that day pressing down on my chest, and I told myself to open it. My hands were shaking slightly when I pulled the paper away. Inside the brown paper was a plain white box. Inside the white box, nested in a layer of tissue paper, were 4 things. The first was a photograph. Me and Owen, maybe 7 years ago, at a project site somewhere in the hills north of the city. We were laughing at something. He had his arm around my shoulders, the way he always did. That easy, unconscious affection that I had trained myself to receive without reacting to, because to react would have been to reveal everything. He looked exactly like himself. Sun-dark skin, dark eyes creased at the corners, the slightly crooked smile that I had spent years memorizing without meaning to. I set the photograph down carefully. My hands were very steady now. Sometimes grief does that. Simplifies you into stillness. The second item was a small sketchbook. My handwriting on the cover, my initials, EV, and I recognized it immediately. A sketchbook I'd lost years ago. One I'd assumed had gone missing during a move. I opened it. Inside were sketches of designs I barely remembered making. Early career work, rough and instinctive. And between the pages, like pressed flowers, were notes. Small folded pieces of paper in Owen's handwriting. I had not known he'd kept notes in my sketchbook. I opened one. This one's my favorite. The way you do stairs, you always make them feel like they go somewhere. Oh, my throat closed. I set the sketchbook aside. I couldn't read more. Not yet. The third item was a key. Old-fashioned, brass, the kind that opens a deadbolt rather than a modern lock. A small paper tag tied to it read, in typed text, 48, Crane Street, Unit 4. The lock on the left. I had no idea what that meant. The fourth item was a letter. A single page, folded in thirds. No greeting, just text, typed in the same plain font as the address label. And these words. He asked me to hold these for 3 years. He said you'd need that long to be ready. He said, give him the photograph so he remembers how it felt. Give him the sketchbook so he remembers who he was before he started hiding. Give him the key because he'll know what to do with it if he lets himself. He said one more thing. He said, tell Elliot I knew. I always knew. And it didn't change a single thing. It only ever made me love him more. Go to Crane Street. Go today. I sat at the kitchen table for a very long time. The coffee went cold. The morning light moved across the floor. Owen knew. 3 years after his death, on the anniversary of losing him, a stranger had delivered a box that told me the thing I had carried in silence for 11 years. The love I'd hidden so carefully I'd half convinced myself it wasn't real, had been seen all along. He knew. He had known, and he had never said. And he had set this in motion. This box, this key, this impossible morning, from beyond the reach of anything I could have prepared for. I picked up the key. I looked at it for a long time. And then I got dressed, and I drove to Crane Street. 48 Crane Street was in the warehouse district, the part of the city that had been industrial once and was now the particular mix of artist studios and converted lofts and coffee shops that always moves in once the rent becomes possible. The building was brick, for stories, a faded sign above the entrance that had once said something and now said nothing legible. I stood on the pavement outside it. He said you'd know what to do with it. I went inside. The lobby was quiet. An old elevator with a cage door. Stairs beside it. I took the stairs. I always take stairs. It's an architect's habit. You learn more about a building from its stairs than from anything else. Unit 4 was on the second floor, end of the corridor. 2 locks on the door, just as the letter had said. The lock on the left. I put the key in. It turned. What I found inside was not what I'd expected. I don't know what I'd expected. A storage unit, maybe. A space full of Owen's things. The detritus of a life, arranged for my inspection. What I found instead was a working studio. Not Owen's studio. He'd been an architect, not an artist. But someone had been using this space. There was a drafting table along one wall. Drawings pinned above it. A filing cabinet. A small kitchen area. Bookshelves lined with architecture and design texts, some of which I recognized as titles Owen had recommended to me over the years. And a desk. On the desk, a laptop. Closed. And beside the laptop, a folder, and on top of the folder, a handwritten note. Not typed this time. Handwritten. And not Owen's handwriting. A different hand entirely. Neat. Architectural print. The kind you develop from years of drafting by hand. Each letter placed with precision. The note said, "I've been waiting for you. I didn't know if you'd come. Sit down. Read the folder. I'll be back at noon." It was 10:47. I had just over an hour. I sat down. I opened the folder. The folder contained, in order, a letter of incorporation for a firm called Farrell Vance Design, dated 8 months before Owen died. A firm I had never heard of, registered in both our names, with a third name listed as a silent partner. A lease agreement for 48 Crane Street, Unit 4, covering a period of 4 years, which meant it had been active for 1 year before Owen's death and 3 years since. A series of project files in Owen's handwriting, preliminary designs for buildings I had never seen, and at the back of the folder, a sealed envelope with my name on it in Owen's hand. I held the sealed envelope. I did not open it. Not yet, because my mind was running the math and arriving somewhere I didn't know how to process. Owen had registered a firm in our names. A firm he'd never told me about. A firm with a third partner, whose name was listed as S. Callahan, that had maintained a studio and a lease for 3 years after his death. Someone had been keeping this alive. Someone had been keeping Owen's plans alive, in our names, in a studio I didn't know existed, for 3 years. And they were coming back at noon. S. Callahan arrived at 11:58. I heard the key in the right-hand lock, a separate key, a separate lock, and the door opened, and a woman walked in. She was perhaps my age, perhaps a few years younger. Dark red hair, paint-stained jacket over a good shirt. The deliberate untidiness of someone who is practically capable of great precision but doesn't see the point in performing it. She had direct eyes, the kind that assess rather than simply look. And she stopped when she saw me and seemed, briefly, to recalibrate. "You came," she said. "Who are you?" I asked. She set her bag on the kitchen counter. She turned and looked at me steadily. "My name is Siobhan Callahan. Owen and I were friends. I knew him for the last 2 years of his life." She paused. "He told me about you. Often." Something tightened in my chest. "He never mentioned you." "No," she said. "He wouldn't have. He was protecting something." She nodded at the folder in my hands. "You've read it. Most of it. There's an envelope. I haven't opened it." She looked at me for a moment. There was something in her expression that wasn't quite sorrow and wasn't quite warmth, but was somewhere in the territory between them. "Would you like some tea while you do?" I almost laughed. The absolute domesticity of it. I was sitting in a studio I hadn't known existed, built around a partnership I hadn't known about, waiting to read a letter from a dead man, and this woman was offering me tea. "Yes," I said. "Please." She made tea. She made it with the ease of someone who knew where everything was, which of course she did. This was her space as much as it was anything. And she brought it to the drafting table and sat across from me. And she didn't say anything. And I opened Owen's letter. It was 3 pages. His handwriting. I would have known it anywhere. "Elliot, if you're reading this, it means I ran out of time before I ran out of courage. I'm sorry for that. I should have said all of this to your face. I've known since approximately the 3rd year we worked together. Not all at once. It was gradual, the way all true things are gradual, arriving in pieces until one day you look at the complete picture and wonder how you ever didn't see it. I watched you learn to stop reacting. I watched you teach yourself stillness when you were near me. I thought, if he ever stops being still, if he ever lets it out, I'm going to be ready. And I was never ready. I was always the coward first. So we were both cowards. 2 people who loved each other and couldn't say it, and I think if you're honest you'll admit that's almost funny. 2 grown men, architects for God's sake, men who spend their professional lives figuring out how to make space for human beings to live fully, and we couldn't make the space in our own lives for the most important thing. I registered the firm because I was trying to build up to it. Farrell Vance Design. I was going to show it to you and say, "Here, I made us permanent. Now you have to talk to me." I never showed you. I kept finding reasons to wait. And then I didn't have the chance. Siobhan knows everything. I mean this literally. Everything. She was the person I finally told, about a year before I died, and she was spectacularly unsurprised and told me I was an idiot, which was correct. She's been keeping the studio going because I asked her to. She's good people, Elliot. Better than either of us. Probably. The key is yours. The firm is yours and hers now, because I've arranged it that way and because you need someone who isn't afraid of you. The studio is paid for. The projects are live. 2 clients have been waiting patiently for an architect who I told them was coming. I know this is a lot. I know this is the kind of thing that might make you angry. You have permission to be angry. You also have permission to feel whatever else comes with it. But here is what I need you to know, Elliot. The one thing. I loved you. I love you. I'm writing this in the present tense deliberately, because the past tense feels like a lie. What I had for you, what I've had, for years, in the particular silent way we both became expert at, doesn't past tense. It just is. You didn't say it. I didn't say it. We were idiots. Don't be an idiot anymore. Go live your life fully, in whatever direction that takes. And maybe let someone in while you're doing it. Owen. I folded the letter. I set it on the table. I looked at my hands for a moment. They were not shaking. I was surprised by that. I was surprised by almost everything about this moment. The quality of the light in the studio, the warmth of the tea mug between my palms, the fact that I was sitting here at all. Siobhan was quiet across the table. How long did you know him? I asked. 2 years, as I said. I met him at a planning commission meeting. He was fighting a zoning variance for a client. I was there about something else. A small smile. He was very good at making a case. He was, I said. He talked about you constantly, she said. Not the way people talk about someone they've lost. In the present tense. Like you were always about to walk in. Something moved in my chest. He was preparing this, I said. The whole time. For about 18 months before he died, yes. He had it all laid out. The firm, the studio, the clients. He just kept not showing you. She looked at me directly. He said you were both very good at building things for other people and very bad at building anything for yourselves. That's accurate, I said. I'm an interior designer, she said. I've worked with 2 of the project clients he flagged. They've been patiently waiting. One of them I've managed to hold with preliminary design conversations, but they need an architect. She paused. They need you, specifically. Owen told them about you. By name. They've been expecting you for a year. I looked at her. You've been running this for 3 years, I said. Paying the lease. Managing clients. Waiting for me to receive a box. Yes. Why? She held my gaze. Because Owen asked me to. Because he was my friend and I don't break promises. She set down her own mug. And because I've seen his drawings, Elliot. I've seen what he was building toward. And I've spent 3 years watching it sit here, unfinished, and I would very much like to see it finished. I didn't go home that day. I sat in that studio until 6 in the evening. Siobhan stayed. We talked. Not constantly, not effortfully, but in the way 2 people talk when they're both orbiting the same center, when there's enough trust in the room to allow for silence. She showed me Owen's project files. The preliminary designs, 2 residential builds, 1 commercial renovation, all of them in the early stages he'd mapped out before he died. She showed me the correspondence with the waiting clients, the gentle holding actions she'd been performing for a year. And she showed me something else. In the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet, she'd kept every project she and Owen had discussed. She was the designer he'd intended to collaborate with. The firm was meant to be the 3 of them. Owen, me, her. Architecture and design, integrated. He saw it as a whole thing, she said, spreading drawings across the table. not separate disciplines brought in at different stages. He thought architecture and interior design should happen in the same conversation from the beginning. I looked at the drawings. They were good. They were genuinely good. Owen had always been good. But these were the work of someone who had finally figured out what they were building toward. He was getting somewhere, I said. Yes, she said. He really was. We were both quiet for a moment. Can I come back tomorrow? I asked. She looked at me. Something shifted in her expression. Relief. Maybe, though she kept it composed. The key is yours, she said. The lock on the left. You don't need to ask. I came back the next day. And the day after that. Within 2 weeks I had called both project clients, met with them, reviewed Owen's preliminary work, and begun developing it forward. Within a month I had incorporated my own work more fully into the studio, brought my existing projects across, and was sitting at the drafting table for 6, sometimes 8 hours a day. The work flowing in the way it only flows when you're finally in the right environment. Siobhan was there most days. Not always. She had her own projects, her own clients, but often enough that the studio began to feel like what Owen had imagined. 2 disciplines in conversation, the architecture and the design informing each other from the start. We developed a rhythm. She'd arrive mid-morning. I'd already be there. She'd make coffee without asking. She'd sit at her end of the table and I'd sit at mine, and we'd work in a silence that was, I want to be precise about this, not uncomfortable. It was one of those silences that has texture and warmth, the kind that you find only with people who don't feel the need to fill every space. I hadn't had that in 3 years. I hadn't had that, if I was honest, since Owen. About 6 weeks in, I noticed something. I'd been in the filing cabinet. There were more folders at the back than I'd initially cataloged. Older ones, project research and site documentation, and I found a folder labeled, in Owen's handwriting, Third Partner, Background. I should have paused. I should have asked Siobhan what it was before I opened it. Instead, I opened it. Inside were printed pages. Articles, mostly, architectural press, design publications, a few news items. All about a firm called Callahan and Reed. An established firm, mid-sized, award-winning. Siobhan's former employer. I'd gathered that from conversations, though she'd left them 2 years ago under circumstances she hadn't described. But it wasn't the professional background that stopped me. It was a photograph, printed from a news article. Siobhan, at what appeared to be an award ceremony. In the photograph, she was standing next to a man, older, silver-haired, handsome in the practiced way of men who've spent their lives in rooms that reinforce their confidence. His hand was at the small of her back. The caption identified him as Declan Reed, founding partner of Callahan and Reed Design. The article was dated 18 months ago. The headline read, Callahan and Reed partner Siobhan Callahan departs firm amid dispute. I read the article. It was brief. It said very little. Amid dispute was doing a great deal of work in that headline. It said Siobhan had departed the firm she'd co-founded with Declan Reed. I had not known she'd co-founded it. She'd implied she'd simply worked there, and that Reed would continue operating under the existing name. It said nothing about the nature of the dispute. But the photograph, his hand at her back, her expression in it, the particular tightness around her eyes that I'd come to recognize as the face she made when she was being careful about something, told me that dispute was also doing very little justice to whatever had actually happened. I put the folder back. I didn't say anything, but I thought about it for the rest of the day. That evening, as she was packing up to leave, I said, as casually as I could manage, which I suspect was not very casual at all, "You never told me much about why you left your old firm." She went still. Just for a moment, that practiced stillness I recognized in myself. "No," she said. "I didn't. Owen had a background folder on you." A pause. "I know. I put it there." I looked at her. "I gave it to him," she said. "When we became friends, I told him everything. I thought he should know." She picked up her bag. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know when." "Siobhan." She stopped. "You can tell me now," I said. She set her bag down. She sat back down at the table. And she told me. Callahan and Reed, had been her firm as much as his. She'd built it alongside Declan Reed for 6 years, had brought clients, won awards, developed a professional reputation that was, by any measure, equal to his. And then she'd made the mistake of falling in love with him. She said this without drama. Simply, as a statement of fact. She had loved him. They had been together for 2 years, and she had made the foundational error of assuming that love made them equal partners in every sense. It hadn't. Declan Reed was a man who understood power as something that needed to flow in one direction, toward him. He was good at the performance of equality, of partnership, of mutual respect. He was very good at making the person beside him feel seen and valued right up until the moment they required something from him that he was unwilling to give. "What did you require?" I asked. I found out he was using the firm's resources to fund a private project. A development scheme he'd cut me out of entirely. A project that, if it succeeded, would make him independently wealthy while I was still on a partner's salary from our shared firm. She looked at her hands. When I confronted him, he told me I was being territorial, that I was misunderstanding the structure of our arrangement. She paused. Those were his exact words. Our arrangement. He called your partnership an arrangement. He called our relationship an arrangement, she said. The firm was a separate matter. The room was very quiet. I left, she said. I walked out of the firm I'd built and handed him the name because fighting for it in court would have taken 3 years and cost everything I had left, and I had nothing left, Elliot. He'd taken it. Not with any single dramatic act. Just, incrementally. Over years. The way people do. I looked at her. Owen knew all of this. I asked. He was the first person I told the full version to, she said. Not the edited version I gave my family, not the professional version I gave colleagues. The actual version. She almost smiled. He was very kind about it. He told me I deserved better. He also told me I had very good instincts and that I'd suppressed them for years in service of someone who didn't deserve them. She looked at me. He said the same was true of him, by the way, that he'd been suppressing his instincts for years. He meant about me, I said. Yes, she said. He meant about you. The light in the studio was going golden with the late afternoon. Dust moved in it slowly. The drawings on the drafting table were still. I'm sorry, I said, for what he did to you. I'm sorry for what time did to you, she said, for what you lost. We looked at each other across the table, and I thought, Owen chose her as the keeper of all of this for a reason. Not just because she was available, not just because she was capable, though she was both, but because she understood what it was to love someone in silence. Because she'd lived, in her own way, a version of the same story. He'd sent me to someone who would understand. Even from 3 years dead, Owen Farrell was making introductions. He showed up 6 weeks later. I was alone in the studio. Siobhan was at a client site. Wouldn't be back until 4. I had the door propped open because the afternoon was warm and the building had indifferent ventilation. I heard the footsteps in the corridor and assumed it was Siobhan, back early. The man who appeared in the doorway was not Siobhan. He was exactly as he'd appeared in the photograph, silver-haired, well-dressed, the kind of man who fills a doorway with a particular deliberate ease that announces itself as authority. Declan Reed. He looked at me with the measured interest of someone taking inventory. You must be Elliot Vance, he said. I am, I said. I didn't stand up. You must be Declan Reed. Something flicked across his face. He was not expecting me to know his name. He covered it smoothly. You've heard of me. Siobhan mentioned you, I said. Briefly. I imagine so. He came into the studio without being invited. He looked around with a proprietary air that made my jaw tighten. The way he scanned the space, the drawings, the files, as though calculating their value. I've been looking for where she landed. This is. He tilted his head. Interesting. Isn't it? I said. He turned to me. I'm surprised she's operating under a third party's name. Farrell Vance. One of these partners is dead, is he not? The words were precise. Calibrated. Designed to land a certain way. Owen Farrell was my business partner and my closest friend, I said, very steadily. He died 3 years ago. Yes. A practiced, sympathetic expression. I'm sorry to hear it. He didn't sound sorry. He sounded like a man who had learned the phrasing of sympathy and deployed it when required. Tell me, does Siobhan own an equity share in this firm? I looked at him. That seems like an odd first question, I said. I'm a practical man, he said. We had an arrangement regarding intellectual property and client relationships when she left the firm, some of which may be relevant to her current work. Arrangement. There was that word again. You should speak to a lawyer, I said, if you have legal concerns. He smiled. It was a smooth smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes because it doesn't need to. I prefer to resolve things directly. Less expensive for everyone. What is it you want, Mr. Reed? He walked to the drafting table. He looked at the drawings, my drawings, Owen's drawings, Siobhan's design notes pinned alongside them. He picked up a page. Put that down, I said. He did, after a beat too long. She left abruptly, he said. There are outstanding matters. Clients we developed together. Relationships that belong to the firm. If she's rebuilding with those relationships. She isn't, I said. Our client list has no overlap with yours. That you know of, he said pleasantly. I stood up from the table. I'm not a physically imposing man. I'm an architect. I spend most of my life at a table or at a site, and I'm tall enough, but not the kind of tall that announces itself. But when I stood up in that studio and looked at Declan Reed, something must have communicated itself clearly enough, because he stopped where he was. You need to leave, I said. Now. I'm simply. You came here uninvited to a private studio to look at proprietary design work and imply legal threats against my business partner. You've done what you came to do. Now leave. A beat. That smile again, recalibrated. I can see why she likes this environment, he said. Very protective. He moved toward the door. Tell her I came by. I will, I said. She'll be delighted to hear it. He left. I stood in the studio for a long moment after the sound of his footsteps faded, and I let the anger settle, and I thought about what had just happened. He'd come to see what she'd built. He'd come because she'd left him and survived it, and was building something without him. And that was, for a man like Declan Reed, intolerable. I called Siobhan. She answered on the second ring. He came to the studio, I said. A silence. Then, Declan. Yes. Another silence. Longer. I could hear the particular quality of her breath changing. Not panic, but the adjustment a person makes when something they've been dreading arrives. What did he say? I told her. All of it, precisely. I'd learned from the letter and from the past 6 weeks that precision was what Siobhan needed. Not softening, not interpretation, just the facts as they occurred, and then room to form her own response. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. The IP claim is baseless, she said. I brought those client relationships, not him. He knows that. It won't survive any scrutiny. I know, I said. He's not coming for the firm, she said. He's coming because he wants me to feel like he can reach me, like I'm not actually free of him. He can't reach you, I said. Not here. Another silence. Softer. Thank you for not letting him stay, she said. He wasn't welcome, I said. It's a simple calculation. I heard something in her exhale. Not relief, exactly. Something more like recognition. Like she'd forgotten. Somewhere in the years of Declan Reed redefining the landscape around her. That simple calculations were possible. That you are not welcome here was a sentence someone could say on her behalf without it costing them something. I'll be back at 4, she said. I'll be here, I said. Declan Reed did not stay gone. I'd expected he might. I'd assessed him, in those 15 minutes, as a man who preferred the path of least resistance when the resistance was visible. A man who operated most effectively in the spaces people weren't watching. But I'd underestimated the particular toxicity of a wounded ego. 3 days later, Siobhan received a letter. A formal one. From Reed's solicitors. citing breach of a non-solicitation agreement she'd signed when she'd left the firm, an agreement that, upon careful reading, seemed to have been backdated to cover client relationships she'd developed independently before the firm existed. "He forged the date," she said, sitting at the table with the letter flat in front of her, her voice very quiet and very steady. "I signed a version of this agreement. Yes, but this clause, this specific language, wasn't in it." "Can you prove that?" "I have a copy of the original agreement." She looked up. "I've had it for 18 months, since the day I left. I had a feeling he might try something like this." She almost smiled, not with warmth, but with the particular grim satisfaction of someone who prepared for a contingency they hoped would never arrive. "I kept everything." "Then fight it," I said. "It'll be expensive," she said. "Distracting?" "He knows that." "Fight it anyway," I said. "Siobhan, you built half of what he's living off. You walked away and handed it to him because you were exhausted and diminished, and it was the easier path. You don't have to keep doing that." She looked at me. "I know," she said. "Do you have a solicitor?" "Not a good one. My sister is a litigation solicitor. She's good and she'll be angry on your behalf, which in my experience is useful." Siobhan looked at me for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. The question was direct. She was a direct person. I'd learned that about her. The way she asked the things she actually wanted to ask rather than orbiting it. It was one of the things I'd come to value deeply about her. I thought about how to answer, honestly. "Because Owen sent me to you," I said. "And I think that means I'm supposed to. Not protect you. You don't need that. But be beside you. In whatever direction things go." I paused. And because Declan Reed is the exact kind of man I find it very easy to be furious on behalf of someone else about. She almost laughed. It was a real laugh, brief, surprised, the kind that happens despite itself. "All right," she said. "Give me your sister's number." My sister, Kate, was indeed very angry on Siobhan's behalf. She was also very effective. Within 10 days, she had sent a response to Reed's solicitors that outlined, in precise legal language, the evidence of the backdated clause, the provenance of Siobhan's original client relationships, and a counterclaim for damages related to the misappropriation of Siobhan's intellectual property during the development scheme she'd discovered before leaving the firm. "He thought she'd run," Kate told me on the phone, in the tone she uses when a legal situation confirms her pre-existing low opinion of the opposing party. "He doesn't know who he's dealing with. What happens now? He backs down or he goes to court and loses expensively," she said. "Either way, she wins. I give it 3 weeks." It took 9 days. Reed's solicitors withdrew the claim. No concession of wrongdoing. No acknowledgement. Simply, the claim was withdrawn. Siobhan showed me the letter in the studio on a Thursday morning. She read it twice, carefully, and then set it down. "Done," she said. "Done," I agreed. She was quiet for a moment. "Your sister is formidable." "She's terrifying," I said. "I think that means she's good." Siobhan looked at me, and this time the smile was different. Full, unguarded, the kind that changes a face. I hadn't seen that smile before. It occurred to me that I wanted to see it again. A week later, I was at the drafting table late. The others in the building had gone. The corridor was quiet. The city outside the high windows had gone blue dark with evening. I was working on the second client project, the commercial renovation, and I'd hit something I couldn't solve, a structural problem Owen's preliminary design hadn't accounted for, a load-bearing element that complicated everything about the ground floor plan. I heard Siobhan's key in the left lock. She was supposed to be at a client dinner. I'd assumed the studio was mine for the night. She came in with her jacket over her arm and a slight wind flush on her face, as though she'd been walking. "You weren't at dinner long," I said. "It ended early." She came and stood beside the table, looking at the drawings. "What's the problem?" I showed her. She looked at the drawings for a long moment. She reached across and adjusted a tracing paper overlay, not my architectural drawing, but her interior design plan that I'd pinned alongside it, and positioned it so the two plans were aligned. "What if the column is a feature?" she said. Not something to hide or work around. What if it's the defining element of the ground floor? You design the space around it deliberately, make it the axis. I looked at where she was pointing. I looked at it for a long time. That changes the whole orientation of the space, I said. Yes, she said. But look what you get. I looked. She was right. It was so clearly, obviously right that I felt the particular architectural frustration of not having seen it, and the much better feeling of it being seen at all. Owen would have seen that immediately, I said. Yes, she said. He probably would have. We were both quiet for a moment. The specific quiet of two people honoring the same absence. Can I ask you something? I said. Yes. The dinner that ended early. Was it actually a dinner? A pause. No, she said. It was a drink. With someone I'd agreed to meet. Someone I'd been seeing, briefly, before. It wasn't going anywhere, and tonight I realized I was sitting across a table from him and thinking about a structural problem in a building I'm not even the architect of, and it seemed like information. I looked at her. Information about what? I asked. She held my gaze. Direct, as always. About where I actually want to be. The studio was very quiet. The drawings were still on the table between us. Owen's preliminary sketches, my development of them, her design notes alongside. 3 people's work. 1 of them gone. 2 of them present, building the thing he'd imagined. I need to tell you something, I said. And I need you to know it isn't. I'm not saying it because I'm lonely or because you're here or because Owen somehow engineered it. I'm saying it because it's true, and I've been watching you be afraid of someone who is very good at making you feel like your instincts were wrong. And I want to say something true in the space we've built. She was very still. I think Owen was right, I said. About my instincts. About the way I've hidden things. I hid 11 years of loving him so effectively that I convinced myself it wasn't real. And he died, and I never said it, and I have spent 3 years learning what that costs. I held her gaze. I'm not willing to do that again. To hide something true until the window closes. She looked at me for a long time. So say it, she said. I'm in love with you, I said. I think I have been since somewhere around week 3, when you moved a tracing paper overlay and solved a problem I'd been fighting for an hour, and you did it like it was nothing, and then went back to your own work without needing me to acknowledge it. I paused. I'm telling you now so that you know. Not as a demand. Not with any expectation attached. Just, you should know. A beat. Then another. The tracing paper thing, she said. That was week 2, actually. Something moved in my chest. Warm and terrifying and completely welcome. I stand corrected, I said. She reached across the table and moved the overlay I'd put down 6 minutes ago, repositioning it so the 2 plans aligned correctly, the column now the axis, the space reorganizing itself around a single central truth. I know, she said. And I've known for about the same amount of time. She looked up at me. I was afraid. I know. He took a lot, she said. It takes a while to believe it's available again. I know that too, I said. I lost someone and it took 3 years and a box with no return address to make me available again. She looked at the drawings. Then at me. Owen had very good timing, she said. Even from 3 years out. He always did, I said. It was infuriating when he was alive. She smiled. That full, unguarded smile. This time I didn't wonder if I'd see it again. The first Farrell Vance project was completed 11 months later. A residential build, the Harmon House, on a hillside site north of the city. A family who'd been waiting patiently for over a year and who had chosen the firm based on Owen's description of an architect they hadn't yet met. It was the best work I'd done. I don't say that with false modesty or excessive pride. I say it because it's accurate, and because I think I know why. It was the first project I'd worked on as myself entirely. Not performing competence. Not managing other people's expectations of what I could deliver. Working alongside a designer who challenged my assumptions at every stage, whose instincts about how people actually live in space were different from mine in ways that consistently made the architecture better. Siobhan's design for the interior was extraordinary. The column as axis idea had evolved across 11 months into something much more sophisticated. A principle about allowing structural reality to define spatial identity rather than hiding it. The house felt honest, like a building that knew what it was and was comfortable in it. We won an award for it. Not a major one. A regional architectural prize, the kind that matters to other architects and to clients, but doesn't appear in national newspapers. The ceremony was held in a hotel ballroom, and the food was mediocre and the speeches were too long. Kate came. She wore something absurdly elegant and told the people at our table she was responsible for the firm's continued existence, which was not entirely inaccurate. Afterward, Siobhan and I walked along the embankment. The city at night was beautiful the way cities are when you're finally present enough to notice. Lights on the water, the old bridges, the particular smell of a river after rain. She had her arm through mine. We'd been finding our way into this for almost a year. Carefully, as two people who'd both been burned approach anything with heat. Not slowly out of reluctance, slowly out of respect. For each other, for the thing Owen had set in motion, for the weight of what it meant to let someone fully in. He would have liked tonight, she said. He would have claimed credit for it. I said. She laughed. He deserves some of it. He deserves most of it, I said. He saw all of this before either of us did. We walked for a while in comfortable quiet. I want to tell you something, she said. Tell me. When he gave me that box to hold, when he explained what it was and what he wanted me to do with it, I asked him why he hadn't just told you. To your face. Why the box? Why the 3 years? Why all the architecture of it? She glanced at me. He said, because Elliot needs time to grieve something before he can see what's still there. He said you were very good at receiving loss and very bad at receiving gifts. He said the box needed to be a gift, not an ambush. I thought about that for a long time. He was right, I said. He usually was, she said. Infuriatingly. What did you say? When he asked you to hold it? I asked how he knew I'd be the right person. That I'd still be around in 3 years. That I wouldn't have moved away or lost touch. What did he say? She was quiet for a moment. Then, he said he had a feeling that his instincts about certain things were good, and this was one of them. I thought about Owen, about the particular quality of his certainty, not arrogance, never that, but a deep, steady assurance about the few things he believed in completely. He had believed in me. Even when I was hiding from myself, he'd seen through it and believed in me anyway. And he'd sent me to someone who could show me what it looked like to be seen. I want to add his name, I said. Siobhan looked at me. To the award, I said. When they engrave it, it's Farrell Vance, and his name is first, and I wanted to read that way on the award too. She took my hand. Yes, she said. Absolutely yes. I went to Owen's grave on the 4-year anniversary of his death. I go every year. I'll go every year for the rest of my life, I think. Not out of obligation. Grief isn't an obligation. It's a relationship you maintain with someone who's become permanent in a different way. I brought the photograph. The one from the box. The two of us on the hillside site. 7 years ago. Laughing. I propped it against the stone so he could see it. That's a strange thing to say about someone who's gone, but I said it to myself and it didn't feel strange. You were right, I told him. About most things. You were an idiot for not saying it when you had the chance. But so was I, so we're even. I paused. The firm is doing well. The Harmon House won a prize. Siobhan sends her love. She actually told me to say that. She's not sentimental, but she meant it. The cemetery was quiet around me. A gray day. That particular soft British gray that diffuses light without darkening it. I love her, I said. I wanted you to know that. Since you went to the trouble. I stood there for a while. And then I said the thing I'd never said. The thing I'd had climbing my throat on the phone the night before he died. The thing I'd swallowed and held and carried for 4 years. I loved you. I love you. Present tense. You told me to write it that way, and you were right. My voice was steady. I was surprised by that. You deserved to hear it. You knew, and you were generous about it, and you didn't make me say it, but you deserve to. So I'm saying it now. The light moved through the gray sky. I put my hand on the stone for a moment. Then I went home. Here is what I know about packages with no return address. They are the things we send when we know the recipient might refuse delivery if they see who it's from. When the weight of what we're sending is such that it needs to arrive without warning. When the person we're sending it to needs to open it without the option of handing it back. Owen sent me a package because if he'd handed me everything directly, the sketchbook, the photograph, the key, the letter, all of it, I would have been overwhelmed. I would have deflected. I would have processed it through the particular armor I'd built around myself. The armor of it was enough just to have had him as a friend. I never needed more. He knew me well enough to know that I would accept a gift more readily if I didn't see it coming. He knew me well enough to know that I needed 3 years before the gift could land. He knew me well enough to choose the person who would hold it, someone who would understand without explanation, who would wait without resentment, who would be, by the time I arrived, exactly what she was. I'm not a man who uses words like fate. I'm an architect. I believe in structure, in intention, in the deliberate arrangement of elements to create conditions for human life. I believe things are built, not destined. But I believe in Owen's instincts. I believe in the 3 years he spent designing this, laying out the elements, trusting that the right things would still be available when I was ready. I believe in the box. Siobhan is asleep in the next room. It's early, 6:40. The light just beginning its particular morning negotiation with the east-facing windows of the house we moved into together 4 months ago. An old place, solid bones, the kind of building that's been through enough that it doesn't feel the need to pretend. We're working on it. The way you do, room by room, decision by decision, each choice made together. There's a drafting table in the study now. Her desk beside it. The 2 plans always laid alongside each other. On the wall above the table, I've pinned 3 things. The photograph from the box, me and Owen on the hill, laughing. A print of the Harmon house, completed. And Owen's note from inside my sketchbook. This one's my favorite. The way you do stairs, you always make them feel like they go somewhere. He was right about the stairs. He was right about most things. I go downstairs and make coffee. I put on just enough for 2. I stand at the kitchen window and look out at the garden. A disaster. We haven't started on it yet. It's been a wet autumn and the garden is winning. And I think about what we're building. Not just the house. Not just the firm. The thing underneath both of those. The actual structure. The load-bearing elements. I hear her moving upstairs. The particular sound of her. Deliberate, unhurried. Fully present in whatever she's doing. The coffee is ready. I hear her on the stairs. I think. He always made them feel like they go somewhere. And here, right here, this kitchen. This morning, this life. I finally know where.